Hello everyone, Scott Sylvan Bell coming to you live from Oahu. It's December 30th, 2014, 8:40 in the morning, 70 degrees outside. I thought we'd talk about some sales training. So we're talking about panic in the sales process. So we're gonna take you through and recap. So the first thing is a strange situation where somebody shows up and creates a challenge. The second thing is no money in your own bank account. And then the third thing is going to be needy. Now the fourth thing is gonna be a short presentation. Now we've touched a little bit on this, but here's what happens when salespeople are having a struggle. In the mind of their self, they think, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I need to make the sale, but if I speed through the sale, I'm gonna be able to get to the end, and then the person is just gonna tell me yes, and then I'm just gonna be able to move forward. But here's what happens is, in order for most people to make a decision, they need a certain amount of information. And the thing that we forget in being in the sales world is we know a lot about our products, about our services, about our widgets, our gizmos, whatever that we have. And in our mind, we think that the buyer has the same exact amount of information, which they don't. So the buyer needs this much information, and the salesperson runs in and gives them this much information, and it creates a challenge because they're like, well, I need this much more to make my decision. But the salesperson is in such a hurry that they don't realize that they need this much more information, okay? So here's what happens. Here's the typical process that happens. A salesperson goes in, the buyer needs this much information, they give this much information, and there's a lot of feeling of neediness towards the end, and that buyer has a lot of pressure on them. And the only way that that buyer knows how to make a decision with that much pressure on them is by asking for a discount. And so what happens is the panic in the sales process leads to a discounted sales call. And the reason that it's a challenge is if the whole sales process would have been gone through instead of half of it or a third of it or 3/4 of it, more than likely there wouldn't have had to been a discount to make that sale. Now, here's the other hidden part of this that most people don't really think about, is when somebody buys something and they don't have all the information that they need to, it leads to regret, and it leads to a lot of questions. So that buyer's gonna call you up and say, hey, Scott, I'm just gonna point at me, Scott, I don't know about my widget, my gizmo, my process, or whatever you sold me. I've got a lot of questions. And all these questions really should have been answered in the sales process, but the salesperson freaks out and says, hey, I don't know why you're calling, I mean, they're thinking this. Hopefully they're not saying it. I don't know why you're calling me, I think we went over all of this. And the buyer's like, I don't remember it. And then they get upset, and then they take it on that buyer. Here's the thing, if they would have done their whole entire sales process to begin with, none of this would have happened. It would have circumvented everything. And I get it, because you know what? I've made this mistake myself. This is how I know about it. I've done this, right? So panic in the sales process creates a lot of challenge for you. You have to remember that there's a whole steps, a whole critical path. That's the word I was looking for, it just wasn't coming to me. There's a whole critical path for what you have to do in order to make that sale. So one of the best things that you could do is just open up like some sort of Word document, and put check boxes by everything that you're supposed to do. Let's say you have 20 steps and you go into your sales process, you're sitting in your car, and you just check off. You're not supposed to write anything, just check off all the steps that you've done. And if you've hit almost all of them, great. If you left a lot of them out, there's a problem. You gotta figure out why you're leaving them out. So shortening up the sales process hurts you in quite a few ways. It leads to quick discounting. It leads to a lot of questions from the buyer, and they don't understand what they're getting, and it leads to a lot of confusion. And then if that person keeps calling, it leads to frustration on the part of the salesperson, okay? So let's just recap. Strange situations was number 1. No money in your bank account was number 2. Creating neediness was number 3. Super quick discounting is number 4. And then shorting the presentation is number 5, all right? So if you could do a small favor for me in the box down below, leave a comment, question, or story, that'd be fantastic. To the right or to the left, there's a subscribe button. Subscribe. And then you can always send it out to all your friends via StumbleUpon on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Orkut, Reddit, Scott Sylvan Bell. Only Scott Bell, Seminole. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Aloha.